The feeling of fatigue is usually accompanied with the feeling of lack of energy, there's muscle weakness, difficulty concentrating, and decreased productivity. In a previous video, I mentioned common lifestyle habits causing fatigue, that is tiredness. In this video, I'm going to be highlighting common medical conditions causing fatigue. Hi, I'm Dr. Francisca Osage, and thank you for joining me on Francisca on Health Matters. There is a plethora of medical conditions presenting with fatigue. These range from conditions caused by microorganisms such as viral hepatitis, conditions involving hormonal dysregulation such as hyperthyroidism, conditions involving tumor formation, involving metabolic or immune disorders. Now, the cells of the body require energy for all functions. In some of these medical conditions, the body's response through various mechanisms which aim to restore the body back to pre-morbid conditions require a lot of energy expenditure and hence fatigue. In some other medical conditions, the materials needed for energy production are simply in deficit. Before identifying the materials or components needed for energy production, I will briefly explain the nature of the energy utilized by the body. Most of the energy utilized by the body comes in a package of what we call ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate. Now, this is a compound consisting of strong phosphate bonds. And for the release of energy that is stored in this compound, these phosphate bonds have to be cleaved. The cleaving of these bonds creates energy which drives cellular activity. Key elements for the formation of ATP, the lack of which will cause a deficit or lack in the production of ATP and hence manifesting of fatigue. And what are these key elements? We have oxygen. Now, oxygen provides a suitable condition for the formation of ATP, and we derive oxygen from the air we breathe during inhalation. There are the red blood cells. Now, the red blood cells contain a compound called hemoglobin, and this hemoglobin is that which is capable of picking up the oxygen from the lungs and transporting it to the various cells from which it is picked and utilized for the production of ATP. There is glucose. Glucose is derived from the breakdown of carbohydrates, and carbohydrates provide the primary source of energy for the formation of ATP. Now, there are other sources other than glucose, such as fatty acids, that actually serve as a primary source of energy, but the body actually defers to glucose for the primary source of energy. And then there are other factors, and this will include hormonal factors such as insulin. Insulin is necessary to bring the glucose into the cells. And there's also hormones such as thyroid hormone. Thyroid makes the metabolic processes that are needed for the production of ATP. They help to induce the formation of mitochondria, which is the site of production of ATP. They provide more sites for mitochondrial production and increase the size of the mitochondria itself. Other factors include vitamin B12, folic acid. All these are necessary for the production of ATP. Any condition impairing the availability of these components or compromising the processes these components drive will ultimately lead to fatigue. Examples of medical conditions that could compromise the availability of these materials needed for ATP production will include conditions as found in sleep apnea. In sleep apnea, oxygen delivery is compromised as a result of airway obstruction, which is aggravated by the positioning of the subject. There's also conditions as in anemia, in which red blood cells are in deficit, and this could be as a result of a hereditary condition, such as in sickle cell anemia, or the lack of elements needed for red blood cells production, such as iron, folic acid, vitamin B12, or it could be caused as a result of loss of red blood cells or destruction of red blood cells as found out in autoimmune conditions. Due to the direct effect of these components or processes in the production of energy, if you as a patient present to your primary care with complaints of fatigue, initial investigations will center on parameters such as blood oxygen level, red blood cell count or hemoglobin concentration, iron profile, thyroid hormone profile, and blood glucose levels, in addition to other preliminary investigations. Depending on your history and the findings of these initial investigations, there might be need for further investigations via labs or imaging, and the treatment will be dependent on the findings of all these investigations. Prevention of these conditions centers on living healthy. Unlike in the previous video, same measures for staying healthy applies. That is, having a good diet, avoiding alcohol, engaging in good habits such as exercising, and being well hydrated. Again, I hope you found this informative and educative, and if you've had, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.